Japan, land of the rising sun and home to one of the most technologically advanced metropolises in the world. Housing over 125 million people, Japan is one of the most densely populated locations on Earth. With over 3,500 separate businesses operating within 47 prefectures, this all amounted to the perfect storm once the world crossed into 2020. As the entire world went on lockdown, many of the workforce and creative and business practices had to adapt and set up shop from their home offices, working through video conferencing and emails to continue their day-to-day roles. While the pandemic continued its spread throughout the world, technology groups within these companies were tasked with a monumental challenge. How do you create a secure network for a collaborative, shared user base while always safeguarding our protected intellectual property?
All right. I know. This is all pretty heavy. I'm gonna course correct here though and move us away from the horrible tragedy that was 2020 as we all know it. Though it is important to keep in mind that in regards to the target of today's episode, the entertainment industry and its workforce application, we were all just not prepared for the radical shift in day-to-day life. This was especially true for our friends overseas. It hit them the hardest, as the idea of remote work or hybrid models wasn't even really part of their culture, or their beliefs for that matter. All right, everyone with me? Same page? All right, let's get back to it. Roll it!
In a fan-fueled zeitgeist, hardly anything is safe from being leaked to overeager audiences. This has been proven time and time again with some of the largest publishers of the industry, such as Ubisoft. Multi-million-dollar franchises like Assassin's Creed can be leaked entirely, even a year before they are ready to be revealed to the general public. This can fuel the fires and in some ways promote the revealed property, but often has negative effects, even harming their investors. With all these looming threats to properties and their creative labor, there is a small building nestled on a small corner of Kyoto, Japan. This unassuming gray building seems immune to all outside influence and has understandably been compared to the Area 51 of gaming.
Area 51 of gaming. Who writes this? Oh, yeah. Well, hey, as you may have figured it out, this is of course the creative hive mind that is Nintendo of Japan. Join me today as we explore this creative giant in regards to their absence over the last couple of years. Maybe we can help explain what may have happened and why their absence has been felt more now than ever before. I want to welcome everyone, one and all, to the very first episode of Save Points.
With the world in lockdown, the largest creative studios in the industry had to shift gears fast to accommodate a growing need for remote work. The idea of a user's ability to access private servers and data in a production pipeline from the comfort of their own home was a difficult sell, and had many corporations seeking alternative solutions. This was none more apparent than within the guarded walls of Nintendo. Japan harbors the lowest rate of remote work for any country in the world. They simply were not prepared for the gigantic shift in the shared work methodology.
I want to clarify something here. Nintendo understandably has not made any of the information we're about to cover available publicly. This is educated theorizing, at best, with rooted knowledge in marketing within a scheduled production pipeline. With that said, it's likely in their concentrated effort to prioritize their employees' safety, this was their strategy. All right, clear? Good? Let's go!
If we assume this was the case, then we can begin to complete the puzzle of Nintendo's notable absence in the proverbial gaming spotlight. With multiple delays in communication, project announcements slowed to a trickle as we entered 2021. This was understandably due to a lack of product from Nintendo, wherein this was likely due to a lack of production. If we analyze the production output over the last couple of years and multiple delays of Nintendo's largest properties, one can assume those development pipelines were likely locked down. Entering the holidays of this year, it will be 5.5 years without a mainline installment of Nintendo's greatest first-party properties, The Legend of Zelda, or a 3D mainline Mario title.
Wait. 5 years? That can't be right. Oh, I know. You could, if you were so feline, include Bowser's Fury. Sorry, you were so inclined. No, sorry, that was a horrible joke. Don't go. Sorry. I really thought it was a great re-meowster. Meow. Looking at Zelda, specifically, we haven't seen an entry in that franchise for 3 years now. You must understand, from a financial and creative output, this is not normal for this company at all. The largest gap before this, respectively, was between The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past for the Super Famicom Super Nintendo and The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time for the Nintendo 64. Though, keep in mind, that included an entire recreation of engineering and a representation in a three-dimensional space, essentially recreating the proverbial wheel within the gaming industry, changing that formula forever. More to come there on a future episode.
If we look at this mounting evidence, the missing pieces start to fall into place. The reason production halted wasn't because they weren't able to work from home, although that likely did factor in. It was because Nintendo did not allow remote access to any of their servers or distribution points. With Nintendo being the target of multiple security attacks and data thefts, the infrastructure was likely not there to support this production pipeline.
Now, you couldn't blame Nintendo for this, as they likely never saw a scenario where the workforce couldn't work from their offices. In a company as old as Nintendo, I'm sure old policies and family values and, well, just overall Japanese customs and culture replaced the ideas of modern security, at least as we would know them. In other words, if you worked for Nintendo, you were honored to, well, work for Nintendo. They likely exist within their own protected bubble. Think of it like a wonderfully protected chocolate factory. Therefore, they were unable to allow their intellectual properties out into the homes of their employees through their own private networks. No golden tickets here. Adding this up, they simply lost, by what we can ascertain, at the least 18 months of actual production. Now, keep in mind, it wasn't that if nothing was done, it just means the creation of all the art and assets and game environments, etc., the real production, as it were, was halted, while Japan, and, well, in effect, the world, began to recover.
Throughout various industries, this understandably was the case. Production lines met multiple delays, and schedules continued to be pushed back. Though this did not in any way stop the demand. In fact, it likely made it much worse.
Here we go!
We are still witnessing the effects of this every day, and will understandably continue to for some time.
It's not a stretch to imagine within the entertainment and technology industry, this was felt the hardest. With everyone in lockdown and essentially all other ideas and public places closed, it seemed like the world turned to that which would entertain them and help them escape from their day-to-day. Video games. The three major pillars of the gaming industry are Nintendo, Sony, and Microsoft. Combined, they contribute to a $300 billion industry. That's billion, with a B. With them as a core pillar, Nintendo out of the gate would have always been under an enormous spotlight. With over 100 million Nintendo Switch systems sold, they have understandably captivated a loyal and hungry audience. Any absence would be seen under that spotlight, to be sure, but ones that push over a half-decade? Well, you can see those from space. Heavy is the crown, as they say.
As we move through the end of 2022 and onward, I would ask you to keep this in mind. For every announcement that doesn't get made, or any reveal that might slip from its targeted schedule, remember, there's an army of incredibly talented people that continue to make the best of an uncertain future. Perhaps, for the next presentation that we all sit on the edges of our seats for, eyes glued unblinkingly to what gets us so excited for the future of entertainment, we would humbly ask that you might remember what we covered in today's episode, and how involved and complicated that path is to present it to you, the viewer and consumer.
Not so direct, huh?
The color gold represents a unified idea of royalty and regal standing. A color above all others to symbolize something of utmost importance. Not a surprise then when in 1986 Nintendo chose this color to highlight a title they knew was unlike anything before it, with its outer shell matching the glowing brilliance of its contents. The Legend of Zelda was released onto the world. 3 decades later, this series still stands as the regal example of game design and pure form and function. Release after release, the series continued to grow and shine upon the gaming industry. Gaming functions blurring the line between game and art. With the release of Breath of the Wild in 2017, Nintendo once again changed the industry and flipped it on its head. Carefully observing from the sidelines of multiple other open-world offerings, Nintendo carefully selected the best of what worked and completely rethought what didn't. In this, they produced one of the finest games ever made.
This all makes the inevitable sequel one of the most anticipated titles in gaming's history. Delayed multiple times, we are finally right on the edge of the release this spring around the world. With the latest information provided, it is painfully obvious there is so much we don't know about this title. Although I do have my own theories to why that is, in this episode I want to focus on a theory that's even bigger in scope for the gaming industry. A few weeks ago, before the Nintendo Direct unveiled the latest state of Tears of the Kingdom to the world, leaked images were put into the wild from what appears to be some production line somewhere. They display what we would think would be a limited series Switch OLED model for Tears of the Kingdom. If this is a real product, then you have to wonder, where was this announcement? It would have made perfect sense, and the timing couldn't have been more on point to announce it within this latest round of Nintendo Direct information. Well, as I'm sure you've already guessed, I have a theory about that. I want to welcome everyone to episode 2 of Save Points.
Leaks are inevitable for an industry with so many moving pieces. Weeks ago, a leaked image appeared that indicated the production of a limited series edition Nintendo Switch OLED model for Tears of the Kingdom. Recently, with the latest official press release, we were shown for the first time the product shots for the upcoming collector's edition. Astoundingly, when we compare the small icons and symbols on the packaging for the pins, we can see this undoubtedly lines up with graphics and icons on the Joy-Con. This would be the most solid example that this limited series console is real and will be released along with Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. Then, I hear you ask out loud in your awesome voice, where was this one? Don't get ahead of me, dear viewer. To this, I say, it's on its way. But it won't be alone.
Alright, this is my theory.
The following is a theoretical discussion predicated on the working knowledge of marketing campaigns and the production pipeline. This information could turn out completely false, which in turn, please do not cancel me or unsubscribe. And remember to always continue gaming.
With the release of Tears of the Kingdom, they are going to release not only that limited edition console, but the next hardware of iteration for the Switch. This will likely be fully backwards compatible with all previously released Switch software, and will focus on a hardware boost to provide higher resolution and increased frame rates. Now, I know what you're thinking, but this likely won't be the Switch's successor, the Switch 2, as it were. I'm not saying that, but I would not be surprised if it's the Pro revision we've heard about now for years. I truly believe this wasn't in this latest round of information, as the timing isn't quite right. If we follow the Switch's launch trajectory as our template, and we're gonna, we will see the announcement by the end of March for a 3-month run-up to the revision launch, day and date of May 12th, 2023. Same day as our good old Zelda. Now, when we look back, the Wii console was released with The Legend of Zelda: Twilight Princess, and it launched to enormous success. Then, well, as we all know, they released the Wii U without a Zelda title to less success. Now, I'm not saying that every console needs a Zelda title at launch to be successful, but every console that has launched with a Zelda title has been successful. With almost 30 million sales of the original Legend of Zelda: Breath of the Wild for the Switch, if we follow this pattern, I believe Nintendo and its newer, younger management will follow these proven strategies for success, and they're likely to repeat that. When a Zelda game is delayed, and most of them have been, it doesn't always end up on the next console for Nintendo. However, most of the biggest ones have been. Twilight Princess, GameCube to the Wii. Breath of the Wild, Wii U to the Switch. And of course, Tears has been delayed multiple times now too. If we follow this pattern, and even taking Nintendo's strategy into account regarding remote development during the last couple of years. And don't forget to check out episode 1 of Save Points, Pausing Nintendo. This is about Nintendo's strategy during the last couple of years. Also hit that like button and subscribe, and don't forget to do Tears of the Kingdom is still following the same pattern as its predecessor, Breath of the Wild. See, that title, as we know, was moved for a universal release after multiple delays for both Wii U and Switch. Taking everything into account that has been provided by Nintendo, this is the most likely explanation. If we all agree the limited edition console does exist, then there was no better place for it than to put that in the reveal of the Nintendo Direct video, especially since pre-orders opened later that day. From a retailer perspective, for taking these orders, it would have made strategic sense to have both the collector's edition and the limited edition console lined up at the same time. I also would like to address the controversy around the price. This is the highest cost for a first-party title from Nintendo in a long while. I believe this is the new norm for first-party productions, to present the next generation of Nintendo software. And, if you think about it, what better way to ring this in than with the company's leading man, who's not a plumber. I think the price stings a little bit less if it's capable of higher performance on newly revised hardware. Although you could argue why basic Switch owners would have to pay this premium price. Let us analyze the reported download size of the final code of Tears of the Kingdom. This is 18 gigabytes in size. This is, by my recollection, the largest size of a first-party title out from Nintendo we've ever seen. You could take the idea of a larger, expansive world needs more storage. Larger Hyrule equals larger gigabytes. But that's not really how any of this works. It's likely because we have had pre-rendered videos, such as those beautiful animated story cutscenes. It's likely also included at a 4K resolution. Along with this, they likely are including 4K textures for that up-resed resolution as well. Sure, it's just a theory, but it wouldn't make more sense in terms of the larger size. I am incredibly excited for the Super Switch that I know people have been talking about for years. But this time though, the timing couldn't be better for launching what is going to amount to be the largest Nintendo title of the year, if not the largest title. With slowing sales on the same retail Switch SKU, we've seen minimal changes on for 6 years. Yeah, 6 years in March. And of course, growing competition. It's time. I'm incredibly excited to hear everyone's thoughts on this and any theories that you may have. Everything we covered here isn't proven, and although it's super fun to theorize, don't forget, this could all just be a coincidence, and production lines just might not have been ready for pre-orders yet. Although, you've heard where there's smoke, there's fire. Well, in this instance, I truly believe where there are rupees, there is tingling.
Resident Evil.
Gaming has always included problem solving. In some form or other, the player is presented with an obstacle or problem, and it's up to them to provide a solution. In an age before the onset of the 5th generation of gaming, players had a very different experience in regards to their adventure horror games. System objectives wrapped within adventure-type mechanics met with mixed results in the horror genre, and provided problems in a use item X to solve for Y type obstacle. the crank needed to evolve.
Thank you.
As we enter the year 1996, Chris Redfield and
The master of unlocking.
Jill Valentine carved their own path to change the future of interactive entertainment. The artistic direction of gaming was severely limited by the available technology at the time. In today's industry, the thought of a character comprising of hundreds of thousands of polygons is commonplace. However, back in the mid-90s, not so much. This usually caused some less than desirable results when trying to convey an artistic concept to the player. But hey, we all used our imaginations to fill in the gaps. Where we certainly didn't need to, though, was the first time those hellhounds came crashing through those windows. Now that felt real. Deep within the hallowed halls of Capcom, the Grand Wizards leveraged pre-rendered backgrounds to composite scenes and gameplay environments that would produce magical visual splendor decades before their time. Darkened hallways felt horrifying as every new corner presented a threat that was very much tangible and thrilling.
Sorry, I didn't mean to do that.
With clever mechanics that emphasized item resource management and in effect starved the player in terms of ammunition and health restoration.
Chris, don't die!
Oh my God!
Resident Evil, or Biohazard as it was known across the pond, presented something completely unique. Leveraging incredible FMV, full motion video, or CGI as it would be referred to today, Capcom was able to present a world that felt real and believable. A simple tried and true game mechanic such as the usage of a crank was forever changed in the gaming landscape, and there was no going back.
Just take a look at this!
This series from the Biohazard trio, Shinji Mikami, Tokuro Fujiwara, and Hideki Kamiya, became one of Capcom's flagship franchises and ran strong up to the turn of the millennium. Throughout gaming's future, multiple games would take influence from this sort of presentation and artistic representation. It truly did carve a whole new genre within interactive entertainment. This was coined survival horror. Once we ran through the initial trilogy of the horrifying tales of the Stars Brigade, Capcom admittedly understood the series was running low on herbs. They turned once again to the creative mind of Shinji Mikami. With him and his team of creative geniuses, in secret they concepted multiple ideas of what the series would become. With the series going so far in the opposite direction, an entire new franchise rose from this design. Did you know? Devil May Cry was once Resident Evil 4.
Help me, Dante! Dante!
Within a creative process, it is always incredibly difficult to upend the tea table and start over. To quote a genius of game design, you burn it to ashes, and you hope within a phoenix arises. Or in this case, Mr. X, which is much cooler than Nemesis. No, I will not be taking questions at this time. Multiple iterations were likely constructed before anything even close to what we see today as Resident Evil 4 was born. Understandably, most of this hasn't been released to the public, but I feel it would have been fascinating to see this creative process, as born from those ashes was a template that once again changed the genre of the interactive entertainment industry forever. The character's survival is pivotal to the experience and core of what the series is. You want to see your avatar on screen as they are faced with grotesque, horrifying opponents and traps. Therefore, the Mikami team crafted a design and camera system unlike any before it. They imagined the camera was set right over the shoulder, and the character filled the majority of that side of the frame.
What?
Let me show you. Even film language had rarely attempted this, as it was a strange composition and rarely worked well within its context. However, once the world was built around this and the opposing specimens reacted and changed their behavior based on this tighter angle, you really felt you were in the character's shoes. You don't really have a lot of wiggle room in this corridor, closer, tighter spacing, so you always feel vulnerable and always on guard.
Sorry about that.
Well, until you find the post-game laser gun. Where do I aim? It doesn't matter.
This camera configuration was tantamount to the entire design and construction of the template that would become what Resident Evil was for a whole new generation. Even with this radical overhaul, Mikami and his team were well aware of everything that worked and made the series what it had become. Adventure elements remained and were simplified, yet expanded on. If you were combining 3 gems of some sort, you were likely in for a much greater reward within this new world.
I'll buy it at a high price.
Item boxes remained, but allowed for greater expansion with more plentiful placement, so that needed crank is usually at arm's reach. Speaking of which, item management superseded itself to become the most amazing little game of where do I put all these eggs Tetris you've ever played. Though, fear not, item chest lovers, it's still here to store all your backup eggs.
I see you have an eye for things.
With the launch of the Nintendo GameCube, it wasn't long before the "cubes are for kids" mantra was being heard throughout the industry. GameCube only has baby games. Well, sure, okay. But
Oh my god.
even with the other titles that completely debunked that, it didn't stop the Big N from shelling out for an exclusive contract to the most adult-themed horror shop in town. With Capcom signed on for an exclusive first console release of the next iteration of Resident Evil. Important to note here, rumors were all over the place to what the next Resident Evil would even look like as we entered the millennium. Finally, footage surfaced from Mikami's horror shop to show the world its vision for the next iteration of Biohazard 4, or Resident Evil 4. This footage, although dated, had so much locked into place, and you finally started to understand the evolution and its promised vision. Multiple showings later, usually from the big ticket show E3, we were shown more of this beautifully horrid world.
Okay, it's game time.
Resident Evil 4.
It was so radically different and left field from what we as gamers expected from the franchise. This understandably worried Capcom. They knew we couldn't just watch Leon roundhouse kick Las Plagas into oblivion, but they would need us to feel like we were roundhouse kicking Las Plagas into oblivion.
So cerdo.
In the age before the internet proper, if you were stuck in any video game or needed information on the latest news from your favorite developers, you were limited to talks on the playground and rumors from your friends, uncles, sons, nephew, who worked for Nintendo. Though, behold, in the darkness a beacon of hope. Gaming magazines. These not only were packed to the brim with information and strategies in the latest titles, they also usually featured a packed-in disc filled with playable builds of upcoming releases. That's right, the first Game Pass was from your mailbox.
You would occasionally see things of this nature from smaller studios, with smaller budgets. Rarely would you get a chance to play pre-release code before the game was finalized from a larger developer. This was especially true for Nintendo. Enter Capcom. Understanding the player's need to experience this new take on not only a beloved franchise, but the direction of the genre survival horror, they needed to have hands-on control and fall into the boots of roundhouse kicking Leon Kennedy.
Where's everyone going? Bingo?
Working with various retailers around the world, Capcom developed a strategy to provide that experience in the form of a demo disc included as a gift for pre-ordering the game. As the demo starts, fog and smoke are bathed everywhere as enraged villagers burn your companion in the village square. Carefully, you take out each and every obstacle, smashing through windows and hoisting ladders as you try to put that one extra step between you and death. Finally, there is a calm. As you hear less and less screaming, you take a sigh of relief and wipe off your hands. And then, you hear what sounds like a chainsaw? You think, there is no way that was a chainsaw, or that someone even has one, until you no longer think because your head has been separated from your body.
This was a massive success, and before the age of social media as we know it today, this game blew up. It was everywhere, and infected all corners of the media and entertainment world. Like a virus. T-virus.
The fever pitch for Resident Evil 4 was Ada Wong levels of fire. People couldn't wait to be ripped apart by Las Plagas infected ganados, as you desperately tried to organize eggs exactly to perfect. It was an insane success for GameCube, a console, keep in mind, that housed monkeys in balls. This horror fest moved over 10 million copies worldwide. No, you certainly didn't need to stumble upon a locked briefcase containing some alloy metal that would be used in a lathing machine to fashion a magnifying glass to see. This was the new direction for Resident Evil. Carefully balanced, just when you think you have it figured out, the game throws a curveball, and now you have to deal with hell itself as you try to make as much room as you can to tweak that perfect shot to rid the world of this abomination. Or how about being locked in the greatest outtakes of an Indiana Jones film, just haphazardly thrown in just because? Don't worry though, the game will occasionally ease off the gas and introduce advantages, such as removing a monster's ability to see. Can't see you, won't be able to hunt you down, right? 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 Leon! Throughout all the blasting and dodging and strategizing of surviving, the game also employs a new mechanic that forever became a staple: treasure. Not only stashed everywhere, but also provided as the greatest rewards for tackling some of the more difficult challenges. This provided the player a sense of purpose and encouraged exploration, opening up linear areas to make you feel like a pirate searching for that X marks the spot, plundering treasure to ensure you can bling out that beer mug.
Yarr! I'll buy it at a high price.
What's going on?
Decades later, this title has been ported and moved onto platform after platform, allowing such a widespread exposure that even Umbrella would be proud. We are on the dawn of not only the re-release of this title, but the release of the official remastered vision of what this game has become. A more in-depth and detailed vision of Capcom's masterpiece. When the game was released in 2005, it was an incredible showcase of the available tech at the time, and what Nintendo's little indigo box could really do. The foundation of an atmosphere-soaked Las Plagas fun park has already been laid down. It's now up to Capcom to show us what that looks like with an upgraded lens. Made from alloy, while being lathed off in a machine about some... Resident Evil 4 entered the industry exactly when it needed to.
A wizard is never late.
Providing not only an injection of creativity and perspective, but also crafted a gameplay template that has stood the test of time. We wouldn't even have games fueled with chainsaw-bearing gears. Overworked space mechanics. Nope. Best dads. Best boy. Treasure seekers. Bathtub relaxers. Horde dodgers, and even its own identity. Which franchises can you think of that have delved into their own history to remake their own systems using this perfected template? Yeah, okay. I picked up their collector's edition, and now I own a brand new shiny statue of Leon Jackson. He came at a high price. I am so pumped to jump back into this incredible world that broke new ground for the entire industry. With incredible pacing, awesome environments, and stellar exploration, this title has really nailed the Resident Evil template down to a T. Virus.